Welcome to Decoding Seafood by Moe, where we dive deep into the oceans and even deeper into the conversations shaping the future of seafood. I'm your host, Chef George Duran. Today's episode is all about sustainability and the powerful choices we make every time we shop or cook seafood. In fact, if you've seen one of those labels on a package of salmon that says MSC, well, we're going to explore why that one little label can make it easier for consumers to feel confident about their seafood and what it means for the future of our oceans. So let's get into it.
We are bombarded with contradictory information from unreliable sources. Who can you trust? With the new Decoding Seafood Podcast, you can dive into the depths of one of the most trendy but also misunderstood food options. Learn from the perspectives of seafood experts, foodies, chefs, pop culture influencers, scientists, and more about the bounties of eating blue foods from our oceans. Decoding Seafood demystifies each layer of seafood so you can separate fact, fiction, and opinion for yourself. With oceans making up 70% of our planet, you can feel good about eating more blue foods and join the Blue Revolution. Subscribe to Decoding Seafood today. Brought to you by Moe.
So joining me today is Kristen Stevens, Senior Marketing Manager at the Marine Stewardship Council, better known as MSC. They've just launched a new campaign called Good For You and the Ocean Too, and it's a message that hits home for anyone who's ever stood at their seafood counter wondering what is the right choice here. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. So let's start off right off the bat for people who don't know, what exactly is MSC?
So, Marine Stewardship Council is a global nonprofit organization dedicated to help ending overfishing. We have a growing planet, and MSC is here to help make sure that sustainable seafood that we love is here for future generations.
So this is a tall glass to order. I mean, you're globally looking at how people are fishing and seeing if it's done sustainably so that we have enough fish for the rest of the future of humanity. Is that right?
Well, MSC creates a standard, so an environmental standard for sustainable fishing that fisheries can voluntarily be assessed against to be able to see if they meet this high bar for sustainable fishing.
So what would be a situation where MSC would come into, let's say a country like Vietnam comes and says, hey, we want MSC to come oversee our fisheries. What is the benefit for them, for example?
What is the benefit for them? Lots of different benefits. So many times it's the push, or I would say the pull, comes from different places. In some markets, the pull comes from consumers who are demanding heavily that the products are MSC certified sustainable. The demand can also come from retailers saying that we only buy and sell seafood that is MSC certified. It can come from the buyers and companies all along the supply chain as well. Or it's from the fishery themselves that say, hey, I want to be recognized for this good work that I do on the water to help make sure this resource is around forever. And usually it's some combination of that that makes this all possible.
It's interesting because I was just speaking to one of my friends who's also a parent who loves seafood, and he said that the biggest hurdle for him in terms of buying seafood is knowing where does it come from, the sustainability, the quality of the fish. I mean, who do we trust at the end of the day? It's that keyword trust. How do I trust that this seafood that I'm purchasing at the market is really good? It's sustainably farmed, it's quality, and something like MSC, that stamp, is going to give them a little bit more of, kind of instigate them to say, all right, I feel good about this. This is going to be quality. I know where it's coming from. And you are like this third party who's kind of going in there and saying, look, we've verified that this aqua farm is doing the right thing, or the way they're processing the fish, right? And is it just wild fish or also aqua farm fish, by the way?
Yeah, the MSC standard covers wild caught only, and our sister organization is the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. Yeah.
And that's the ASC stamp.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so for the folks out there, if you see the ASC or the MSC, in this case MSC, it's a wild caught, and the ASC is the farm raised, and the MSC, boy, that is quite a that's got to be tough. How do you verify it in terms of like wildly catching? What kind of resources do you have to go out there and see exactly what some of these fisheries are doing?
Um, what kind of resources can you see as a consumer to look into the fishing practices? Is that the
Well,
question?
tell us more about how it works, how the whole process works. How did MSC go out there and verify that they are doing it the right way?
Yeah, so actually, there's a third party, a conformity assessment body, which assesses against the MSC standard. So they actually go out having the MSC standard and look at three core principles of the fishery standard to see if this fishery meets it. And at very high level, this means making sure that the populations of fish that they fish from are sustainable and healthy. Um, Also making sure that there's minimal environmental impact to the surrounding ecosystem, and that includes other species too. And then the last piece is ensuring that the fishery meets all local laws and regulations too, and has a really good management system in place that can respond to changing environmental factors. So those are kind of the three core elements of what makes a fishery sustainable.
Amazing. So now you have this campaign on seafood sustainability, and it's running during Earth Month.
That's right.
That's convenient, right? Can you tell us more about the campaign and why during Earth Month?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I'm surprised there aren't more efforts to educate on seafood sustainability during Earth Month because the planet is made up of over 70% water, right? You'd think that that would be the bulk of the discussion, but we find it a really receptive time for consumers because they're already thinking about their eco habits. They're thinking about, their electricity usage. They're thinking about their impact on climate. Fashion industry does a lot of education around sustainability at this time, auto industry. So it's really great for us to leverage that already heightened consciousness around sustainability. But
And the campaign,
also,
yeah,
oh,
go on,
sorry.
please go ahead. I was going to mention the name of the campaign, "Good for You and the Ocean Too," but you were going to
Yeah.
say, and also,
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, you know this probably better than I do, but this is a time of year too when people eat more fish. So that's, off the tail end of some holidays that are centered around fish. We're going into that summer grilling season. So it's really kind of that time where consumption is high, environmental consciousness is high, and it's just kind of that perfect blend. So
and let's not forget, fish tastes so good, especially if it's prepared properly.
definitely.
I am always excited this time of year for the farmers markets and the fishmongers at the farmers markets, of course. And what I've noticed is that seafood seems to be surpassing chicken in terms of what U.S. consumers are consuming. Essentially, I mean that's amazing. It's so important, of course. Tell us more about how important it is to have this kind of protein be sustainable as well.
Yeah, well, and then you're referring to the recent poll that we ran. We were asking consumers, what animal protein do you think is the most sustainable? And for the first time, we're seeing people responded seafood, actually. And historically in the US, people perceive chicken as the most sustainable
Mhm.
protein. Chicken is still high. People still believe chicken is quite sustainable. But the fact that seafood has surpassed it just gives me some confidence that our collective work to educate the public on this healthy and sustainable resource is working. So
Yeah. What is your opinion on the state of the Earth right now in terms of the ocean? So let's say 100 years ago, it was a whole different world. But obviously, with overfishing and pollution and all these issues that we have, but where is the health of the Earth at this point? What do you think where it is?
I'm actually optimistic because I see more people caring now than ever before. I actually just saw a research that came out. It was run or in field end of March that showed that even with the current climate in the US, people remained committed to helping to address climate change, to making sustainable product choices at the grocery store. And this goes outside of seafood too. And I think that's really a reason to be hopeful that people want to take care of this planet for the future.
Are there any seafood or fish in particular that the consumer can look at and say, I'm pretty sure this is going to be good. By purchasing this fish, consuming it is going to be good for the environment. Is there something that we should always feel good about, even if it does or doesn't have the label?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will say that, if you do a blind taste test of a sustainable fish, and non-sustainable, it's going to taste the same. Like you're not going to taste
Mm.
the difference of sustainability. And so that's why you really need some kind of verification, even if it's not the MSC label. You need some kind of third party, in my opinion, third party verification. But also consumers are increasingly asking for some other independent organization to assess whether or not is it indeed sustainable. And then the other piece of it is it's that signposting. Consumers need to be able to see it on packaging, even better if they can see it at retail too, signposted at the grocery store, to be able to help them shop their values.
We'll be back after this break.
Moe salmon comes ready to cook, ready to grill, ready to season, or pre-seasoned, and ready to eat. And an assortment of flavors for an assortment of people. Moe salmon.
Now, obviously, educating the consumer is probably a priority for you guys. What is MSC doing to educate the consumer that, look, this label really matters? What do you do, for example, to let the people know out there? Because I can ask probably 100% of my friends, and they have no idea unless I tell them what it is, what the MSC label does.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's actually a really good segue to talk about the Good for You in the Ocean 2 campaign that's happening for Earth Month. This is an awareness campaign where we're growing awareness of the MSC Bluefish label on packaging and what that means for the consumer. And this campaign was born out of an insight that people always feel like they have to, or often feel like they have to compromise at the grocery store. They have to choose between something that's good for them, something healthy for their family that they'll eat, and also something that's good for the planet. And that they were struggling to find, to not feel guilty about their choices. They always had to compromise. But when you choose a product that has the MSC Bluefish label, it is that win-win, and you can feel good as a consumer knowing you're making that good decision. And so for us, what we're doing is focusing on the primary purchase motivators as a way in. So we know health is really important to folks, honestly, all around the globe, all ages. This is just really important. And it's one of the reasons, next to price, it's the highest reason people, or it's most encouraging to eat seafood when they know that it's healthy for them. That can really motivate purchase. And then I also think it's really fascinating that consumers are linking the healthy seafood for them as healthy for the planet. So they're thinking if it's environmentally friendly, it must be better for me, and vice versa. So we're leveraging that to say, yeah, when you choose MSC certified, it is indeed good for the planet, and it's also a good choice for your own personal health. So that's a nice way in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, just trying to know how to navigate is already a hurdle for a lot of consumers. When someone walks into a supermarket, of course, the packaged seafood will have that label, but a lot of these larger supermarkets have more of this kind of fishmonger area where the fish is all laid out. How do we know to ask, or how do we know if that fish laying there on that ice is MSC, or at least sustainably friendly? Is there a way around that?
We encourage consumers and shoppers of seafood to ask their fishmonger, talk to them. They know a lot about seafood. It also is a good signal to them if you're asking questions about sustainable seafood, responsibly farmed seafood, for them to know this is important to their customers. So I would say just ask questions. Same at the restaurant as well.
Yeah. What are some of the misconceptions about sustainable seafood that people have out there, or that people just don't, who probably get it wrong?
You know, that's a good question. What misconceptions of sustainable seafood?
I mean, a lot of young people think that you say farm raised, and it's like, no, I got to get out. But then,
Yeah.
not all wild seafood and salmon and so on, not the wild stuff also necessarily. I mean, you have to, first of all, we have an enormous population, and there's only so many fish in the ocean. So there has to be some sort of balance of how much and how you can, fish and raise the
Exactly.
seafood. So how do you balance that? How do you navigate through that? And what are people's biggest misconceptions?
One of the growing misconceptions among the younger generations that is it even possible to eat to eat seafood and have that be sustainable, whether it's wild or farmed. Like, is that even okay to do? And we see the younger generation, kind of see two groups of younger generation consumers. One being very highly, activists for social causes, environmental causes. They care deeply about sustainability. And we also see they have one of the lowest or smallest values action gaps. So they want to make these sustainable choices, but they also report doing them. That said, one of the big things that they're doing is eating less fish or abstaining from fish in order to help the planet. And so this shows me and this is a lot of work that MSC is doing, a lot of our partners, I'm sure you are as well, reassuring that younger generation that is so concerned about the environment that it is possible to eat from the ocean and have that be sustainable. Those things don't have to be at odds. You can eat from a sustainably farmed or raised fished animal and protect the planet. So that's really the big thing, is that reassurance will be of utmost importance for that younger generation.
Yeah, I traveled to Spain last year, and the seafood culture is very different than it is here in the United States. I mean, it's in their diet, but more importantly, it's in their culture. It's that culinary culture that's lasted for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Seafood is part of it, and it almost felt like anywhere you go to buy seafood, you are guaranteed it's going to be quality seafood. Same thing with France. Same thing with even going to Mexico. I mean, it's there. Here in the United States, I think one of the problems I see is that people they have this misconception about seafood, and we need some of these guides. We need ways that MSC can dictate and say, look, it's raised properly. What do we do as Americans to start eating better seafood, more seafood, and really appreciating what this blue earth has to offer for us?
Yeah, well, I would say one thing, encouraging looking in all the different aisles of the grocery store for sustainable seafood options. So that's one of them. So for example, MSC labeled seafood can be found in your canned aisle, shelf stable, in frozen, in fresh chilled, but also even your fish oil, krill oil supplements have a lot of them carry the MSC label. Your pet foods carry the MSC label too. And so it's really exploring different ways to eat fish that goes beyond like the fresh counter experience. There's so many other ways to enjoy it for yourself and for your pet family as well. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is just exploring different species too, like getting a feel for, that's what's so interesting and challenging about the seafood world, right? That learning how to cook and appreciate cod is so different than octopus. It's so different than like a mollusk, oyster or something. So it's just, there's so much to enjoy out there and so many great options. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something that I'm falling in love with these days. And of course, obviously a big salmon lover here, sea bass, cod. Yes, all to that. Skate. Tell me about skate, because when I learned how to cook skate in France, now all I do is look for skate, and of course it's all about the freshness in skate. But skate, which is stingray, is a fish, or is it a fish? I guess that it is just changes the way I eat seafood now. Whenever I see it at the farmers market, how sustainable is skate? Do you know?
I'm actually not so sure. Yeah,
No.
and I haven't had it that often. Honestly, so for me personally, my family is German, and so I eat a lot of like pickled fish, smoked fish.
Herrings, sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something that I really enjoy. Tinned fish, that kind of thing.
That's
Yeah.
very good too. Well, I did not know that MSC label also goes with the non-fresh aisle as well. You're saying canned, the supplements, all of that. You could see the MSC label in there, and that's what we need to look for. Now, so before we say goodbye, what I usually ask our guests, I say, I'm coming over for dinner to your home tonight. What seafood are you cooking for me? And I'll tell you one thing: if you come to my place, you're going to have skate, so you can enjoy
Amazing.
that. It's amazing, the texture, the flavors. It's wonderful too. But what am I having tonight for seafood at your home?
We do eat a lot of salmon in this household, and I've gotten my daughter, who's 2.5, really excited to eat like pan-seared salmon. And I've actually found a good way to make it that's really easy that I could do after work, and just really good seasoning. Keep it simple, serve with some awesome veggie on the side. Yeah, I'd say that's one of our go-tos.
Yeah, it is hard. It was hard in the beginning to get my younger kids to eat salmon, and the introduction was through raw salmon through sushi or
Oh,
sashimi,
wow.
and then from there, their palate just got used to the kind of the butteriness of quality Atlantic salmon, and it kind of transformed into being able to sear it and then eventually cook it. And now salmon holics. I don't know if that's a word, but we absolutely enjoy salmon. Listen, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today, giving us this kind of front row seat to how MSC is making the waves. It is such an important label to look for. And like I said, a lot of my buddies, friends, the parents that I'm with, they're lost, and you really are like this guiding light to how to find quality and trust the quality of the seafood we consume. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And to all our listeners, next time you're at the store or planning a meal, keep an eye out for that MSC Blue Fish label. It's your shortcut to seafood that's responsibly sourced, ocean-friendly, and totally delicious. Thanks again for tuning in to Decoding Seafood by Moe. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who loves seafood or the sea itself. I'm George Duran, and I'll catch you next time with more stories, more science, and more flavor from the world of sustainable seafood.